In a time when the majority of cards are declining alongside the overall economy, is the speculation game dead? I'm showing you how I use market movers and the hype from the news headlines to predict the next speculative breakout candidates. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Data Dive. My name is Tyler Nethercott, better known as Teapot, and today we're talking about speculation, speculating the next big player to potentially break out. I know, really, Teapot? Speculation in a downward market, in a downward card market, in a downward economy, while all the economists are predicting a big apocalyptic recession coming? Yes, speculation. If anything, because it's fun. It's fun to try to predict breakout players. We play fantasy sports to try to find those hidden gems, and we speculate on sports cards for the same reason, so it can really be fun. But before we get into this, I do want to be clear about a few things. Number one, be smart. Take care of yourself financially, take care of your family. Do not spend money on speculative card plays that you can't afford to lose. In fact, don't spend money on any cards that you can't afford to lose. Nobody actually knows what's going to happen with the economy. That's point number two. Nobody knows what's coming. In spite of what any so-called experts might say, inflation is soaring, interest rates are rising, and by all accounts, it looks like we are definitely headed for less prosperous times, but nobody actually knows what things will look like in 3 months from now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now. And number three, this episode is quite passionately not investment advice. This episode is more or less for fun, but to walk you through my thought process. I'm not a psychic, I'm not a guru, I'm just a guy using data to try to find insights. So, with all that being said, let's dive into the data. And the first thing that I want to do here, before we talk about anything, is I want to show you something that Parker on my team pointed out to me yesterday as he was doing some more card ads and research for this year's Prism set, which, by the way, we have added into our data. We have 2021 Prism football in our data, all the variations of the key rookies, we're building that up. So if you're interested in that, you can check out Market Movers, obviously. But look at this price. This is a first off the line blue shimmer, numbered to 25, of a former first round draft pick. This is a color match on top of that, you know, my Detroit Lions. Jared Goff. I'm not particularly high on Jared Goff as the future of the Lions. I think eventually we'll end up drafting another quarterback or making a trade. But $16.50 for a former first overall draft pick, a starting quarterback in the NFL, a color match to 25 for a product that's running, $1,400 a box, and you hit this. This is first off the line. This is even more expensive, and you hit this as your blue shimmer to 25 as your shimmer, one of your shimmer cards from that first off the line product. $16.50. This is dangerous. I'm putting this here to set realistic expectations about two things. One, if you're going to spend money ripping Prism, know what you're getting into. Again, don't spend money that you can't afford to lose. You can definitely hit it big. You can hit that, a card like that Mac Jones Black 1-of-1 Prism that sold for $100,000, apparently in a private sale, raw. But you could also have this be your hit, and this is much more likely to be your odds. We ripped a box of it. We hit a gold vinyl of a second round Lions player from last year, and cool card, awesome card, not going to command a huge amount of value, definitely not breaking even. So just be financially responsible when it comes to ripping wax. We usually say that that's something you can do for fun. And if you can afford to spend that kind of money for fun, then enjoy it. If not, be a little bit smarter. And so I bring this card up just to point that out. And then I'm pulling this over here to show Jared Goff's 2016 Prism Silver PSA 10 compared to Kyler Murray's 2019 Prism Silver PSA 10 compared to Joe Burrow's 2020 Prism Silver PSA 10. And look at these prices. $58. $58 for this Pop 470. Pop 470, not a high population for this Prism Silver card, and it's $58. If we jump over to Kyler's, it's $925. If we jump to Joe Burrow's, it's $2,800. Joe Burrow looks like the real deal. Joe Burrow looks legit. In fact, he is legit. Right now, he's legit. He's incredible. Last year, he was incredible. In college, he was incredible. Everything he's done up to this point, pretty much in his football career has been incredible when he plays, but there's no guarantee. There is absolutely no guarantee. There's no guarantee that he will continue to be incredible. He could get injured, something else could happen. I'm gonna knock on, this isn't wood, I don't think, but I'm gonna knock on it anyway. Just know, again, when you're investing in these current players, especially in football, which is so much more prone to injuries and short-lived careers, this is what can happen. This card could go from $2,800 down to $58 in a matter of years or in a matter of time. Just keep that in mind. Again, I'm trying to hammer home, I can already sense the comments, you shouldn't be speculating, this is all trash, you know, whatever. I'm showing this, a lot of people like to do it, a lot of people like to speculate, and so I want to break it down. So now let's actually get into some other data about speculation. No, one more, I forgot I had this chart queued up here. This is just another example, a specific example that will dovetail nicely into what we're going to look at specifically. DK Metcalf. If you've been watching my videos for a long time, whether it's on this channel or when we had switched over occasionally to the Sports Card Investor YouTube channel, you know I talked a lot, I picked a lot on DK Metcalf because I just felt like his prices were way, way, way too high when you compared him to other players of similar caliber currently, and especially when you compare him to all-time greats like Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, and others. In this case, I've gone back kind of to his high point, November 1st of 2020, and I'm showing you what happened to his prices on his Prism Base and his Prism Silver rookie card. They're down 85% and 78% respectively from a high of $1,600 down to $325. This looks a lot like what we saw with Tyler Hero cards and other players. Obviously, we know the market as a whole has done that, but be careful, especially with positional players, who are hyped, who are very high. Survey the landscape. That's where having a tool like Market Movers is so valuable because it's so easy to come in here and filter on price movements on football and start looking. What are other receivers going for? Other all-time great players, what are they going for? Now, we recently added in the Market Pulse feature. This is an awesome way of getting like a more holistic view of the card market as a whole. And what I've done here is I've filtered onto our football 2018 to 2020 and our 2010 to 2017 indexes. And you can see over the last 180 days what these have done. Down significantly, down, well, 7.7% on that 2018 to 2020. That's being held up a lot by Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, among others, right? Some of their cards are holding value. But this index in particular, down 41%. Mahomes cards way down. Mahomes is a great example. Look at where Burrow is now. Look at where Mahomes was, which was higher than that. But look what's happened to Mahomes as he made it again almost to the Super Bowl last year, was this close to making it to another Super Bowl, and then misses out and his cards just come crashing down. So this is what's going on with the market as a whole. All this to say that last year, in a market where almost all football players went down during the season, a few guys did go up. Cooper Kupp was one of them. Deebo Samuel was another one of them, and Hunter Renfrow was a third of them. Of these three players, you could have looked at Deebo and said, he was really good. Prior to last year, he was very talented, very good. And the spotlight just wasn't on him, and it certainly wasn't on San Francisco because they had been struggling. Last year, San Francisco was projected to do really well, to have a great season. And Deebo Samuel, obviously a really talented athlete, so you could have looked at him and said, hey, you know what? I think this guy's more likely to go up than DK Metcalf is to go up. Or I think DK Metcalf is probably more likely to come down and Deebo to go up. Hunter Renfrow was just kind of a breakout candidate. Honestly, if you saw that one coming, congratulations. I certainly didn't. I did not see that coming. But Cooper Kupp is a guy that I think we could have seen coming. In fact, a lot of people did. A lot of people drafted him higher than projected in their fantasy leagues, and a lot of people bought his cards speculatively going into the season. Why? Because Matthew Stafford swapped in for the Rams, and we know how that wound up, how that ended last year. And they, traded Jared Goff to my Lions. And so what can we look at this year? Let's look at the card prices, quickly for these guys. This is over the last, since last year, really. This is a specific time frame, basically, from a year ago up and through, when the playoffs kind of wrapped up or about thereabouts. You can see all their card prices up: 449% on Kupp, 223% on Deebo, 419% on Renfrow. So, kind of a needle in a haystack in a way, but again, to prove certain players do go up, and certain players almost always inevitably will go up. So how do you identify them? Well, it's almost fantasy football time again, or it's time to start thinking about that if you're like me and kind of getting into that prematurely. I saw this headline yesterday. Courtland Sutton is the early favorite to be Russell Wilson's top target. This headline could be total trash. It could mean nothing. We see a lot of headlines like this stuff all the time. It's still not even into, mini camps and all of that. But this is a guy with talent. This is a guy who had a lot of hype a few years ago and who was being drafted very high in fantasy leagues because people thought he was going to break out, especially when they thought Drew Lock was going to be the next big thing. That didn't work out either. If I jump over here to Fantasy Pros, expert note, we take that with a grain of salt too, right? It says, in an anemic offense, Courtland Sutton still finished 7th in air yards with 1,756 air yards cemented in between Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, two of Russell Wilson's targets. Now, air yards, if you're not familiar with that, is the total yards that the ball moves on targets to a receiver. So this does not mean that Sutton had that many receiving yards. What this means is that's how far the ball traveled when his quarterbacks were targeting him last year. So it's really an indication of how often the ball goes down the field, as opposed to like little checkdowns where then the guy makes a move out of it. I bet if we were to look at a guy like Deebo Samuel, who's great in that more West Coast style bubble screen type play, his air yards would not be as high. Sutton has a real chance to recapture his elite form. Another year removed from his ACL injury. It helps substantially that he has received an ultra upgraded quarterback with Denver's trade for Russell Wilson. Wilson has always been an elite downfield passer. He had the 6th highest passer rating on throws of 20-plus air yards last season, which plays heavily into Sutton's strengths as a vertical threat. So that does make a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. So if we jump over here, let's take a look at Cooper Kupp and let's take a look at Courtland Sutton. And what I've done here is I've stacked up their 3 key seasons of statistics. Kupp had a down 2018. He only played half of that season when he had that really bad injury, and then he came back. So I omitted 2018 for Kupp. 2019 was similar for Courtland Sutton with the ACL injury, so I took that out. So I've lined these up together and stacked them up, and you can see Cooper Kupp, 62 receptions, 869 yards, 5 touchdowns. Sutton, 42, 704, and 4 touchdowns. Not a huge difference in those. 2019 versus his 2020. 94 receptions, 1161 and 10. 72, 11, 12, and 6. And you can see here, Sutton definitely a more, down the field threat with fewer receptions, but around the same number of yards as Kupp. 2020, 92, 974, and 3. Down year last year for Courtland Sutton, but he had inconsistent quarterback play, inconsistent guys throwing him the ball. Now, add in, the only thing that changed, really, add in Matthew Stafford. They won Matthew Stafford in 17 games, 145 receptions, almost 2,000 yards receiving, and 16 touchdowns for Kupp. Honestly, one of the best receiving seasons in NFL history. One of the best, if not the best. Some people would argue the best. Now, what do we see? 2022, another year ahead. The Broncos adding in a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, Russell Wilson. What's going to happen with Courtland Sutton's stats? Let me be clear. I don't expect Sutton to come anywhere near 145 receptions. 100 may be realistic. 100 may be realistic. Probably like 90. Probably not coming anywhere near almost 2,000 yards receiving. But the touchdown numbers should go up drastically. And this is where I see the biggest room for improvement with Sutton. He is a vertical threat. He's a bigger receiver who can make plays, jump balls in the end zone. So what I've done here is 2018, 2020, and 2021 compared Russell Wilson's individual passing stats to the Broncos' combined team passing stats from those years. And you can see very similar stats. The total yards, nearly identical for those 3 years. And then you see the passing touchdowns, though, 105 passing touchdowns for Wilson, 60 for the Broncos in the same time frame. Now, I did extrapolate last year in 2021 to get his stats out to a 17-game average because he did not play the full season last year. Wilson did not. But really interesting. There's no way anybody can debate or deny that the Broncos are getting a huge upgrade at quarterback from a combination of Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock last year. So even if you don't think that, Sutton's the next Cooper Kupp, let's take a guy like Hunter Renfrow. Let's see what happened, to his stats last year. And we look at his stats, and you can see he basically went from 656 receiving yards to 1,038 with 9 touchdowns. He still didn't have as many yards as Courtland Sutton's highest point so far in his career. He had a few more touchdowns with 9 versus 6 at that high point, but he broke out. If I'm going into this season, who do I like better? Do I think Hunter Renfrow, with Derek Carr throwing him the ball, with Devontae Adams there now, and still with the tight end that's escaping me, Darren Fells? He's got weapons there. I think Renfro's still going to play a role as that slot kind of guy. But look at Russell Wilson and Sutton. I would expect his stats to go up a lot more and to potentially see Renfro's come down. So if we jump over and I look at this, Courtland Sutton, another thing I like here is he does not have a lot of cards. He doesn't have a lot of rookie cards. 2018 print runs for football were actually very, very low, especially in products like Prism and Optic and other things. You can see this. I went to the last 90 days for Courtland Sutton cards, all graded and raw. And this White Sparkle PSA 9 Pop 1 sold for $107.50, $107.50. How much do you think that a White Sparkle Cooper Kupp rookie card would go for in any grade? Or a White Sparkle, honestly, a DK Metcalf would go for, who's now with Drew Lock in Seattle, while Sutton's in Denver with Russell Wilson. I was scrolling through this and I was like, man, I mean, honestly, taking a stab at some of these more rare cards, and that's probably what I would do more than anything, is look for a more rare card, a low population parallel that's numbered or that's known to be short printed like the White Sparkle, as opposed to something like a base card. You could still potentially make money on the base cards if you want an even lower risk entry point. And so I'll jump over and show you those base cards, these Prism base cards. I'm comparing Deebo Samuel, Hunter Renfrow, and Courtland Sutton, all of their Prism base cards respectively, 2018 for Sutton, 2019 from both of these guys. $133, $75, $28 most recently on 5/23. And this is a Pop 60 PSA 10 on the Sutton. Now, would that go up going into this season? Might there be some already at PSA or even being submitted now with the $30 level? Sure, that's possible. But like I said, the print runs are still relatively low. Now Renfro's is pretty low at Pop 96. I bet there's some more of those in the pipeline too. This is where it's really interesting in this kind of like, market cap representation, which is really just to say the population count times that closeout, that most recent price, $133 times 605 of these, you can see $80,000 theoretically in circulation for these cards, theoretically, and comparing that to $1,680 on all of these PSA 10 graded Courtland Sutton cards. So there's just not a lot of them. And just to kind of hammer that point home, if I come over here and look at all the Prism-based PSA 10s that we have in Market Movers for the key players, sorted by the highest price to the least. Josh Allen at Pop 1514. Lamar at 631. And then we're really getting down into like much lower numbers. Baker at 951. DJ Moore, another talented receiver at Pop 31. Nick Chubb at 301. So even if this guy knocks it out of the park in that next season, it's going to take time for those cards to come back. If you had one of these going into the season as a speculation, saying, what's the upside versus the downside, that's what I'd be looking at. And I'd be looking at Hunter Renfrow as kind of the downside, the floor, so to speak, if you thought, this is all he's going to do. He's going to get that kind of spotlight, not the Cooper Kupp kind of spotlight. So coming back over here, I can see, these pop counts, and then I just jumped out to eBay to see what's available. And there's one right now on a buy it now for $50. Obviously $28 was the last sale. $50 might be a little higher than you'd want to pay, plus you're going to have to factor in the shipping and any taxes if you're not set up to, be tax-free. So $50. I didn't push the buy it now on this. I'm probably honestly not going to buy any Courtland Sutton cards. I'll probably look back on this and think, maybe I should have. But if you're into speculation, this is how I would be thinking about it. This is how I do my research. This is how I'd be going into the season. And I might DM this person and say, hey, I know you don't have a best offer enabled. Do you have any room on this? Could you do 40, whatever, and see if he's willing to negotiate, or just keep an eye on it. Again, personally, if I were going to buy a card, I'd be looking at something more like this card, this light blue, Prism die cut in a PSA 10. These are, short printed cards, really nice looking, actually kind of a unique, more tasteful die cut than other things. and that one's at 120 bucks. Now this one sold last November for $42, but it is a Pop 4. So it's an extremely low population card, serial number to 199. And that's the type of card that I'd be looking for in that area, keeping an eye out between now and the season, or between now and at any point when a price run up happens. Just looking to potentially scoop one of these, especially if there's something on auction at some point, you might be able to get a really good deal. So that's how I'd be looking at this type of rookie speculation. I don't have huge expectations, honestly, going into this year to see a whole bunch of guys have a big run up. I think there will be prices going up. I think that with the economic uncertainty, you're probably better off in general putting your money into other players. Players right now, LeBron's way down. I've been personally targeting some Michael Jordan cards. That's kind of where I'm looking to park money right now, as kind of a hedge against whatever's going on with the economy. But there still could be money to be made in the speculation game as well. So what do you make of Courtland Sutton? It does seem like it could be a somewhat crowded receiving core there with Jerry Jeudy and Hamler and Tim Patrick and all of them, competing for receptions. And then on top of it, the Broncos had a ton of success running the ball last year, so they might just stick with that approach. No matter what, like we said, Russell Wilson is a significant upgrade at quarterback, provided that he stays healthy. I don't know if Sutton will break out or not, but he sure does seem like a solid candidate for a breakout, and his pop counts again are relatively low and cards relatively inexpensive. So who else do you like, if anyone, going into this upcoming NFL season? Is there anyone you're high on to break out, or do you just think speculation is overall a fool's errand? Let me know no matter what down in the comments. And if you want to do your own price research, we'd love for you to give Market Movers a try. Market Movers now has 635,000 cards being tracked with daily pricing, including all the new 2021 Prism football cards with all of the parallels of those key rookies. Compare them all with our popular card charts, track your personal collection's value, and easily find deals on eBay below recent comps. Obviously, many, many more features. Visit marketmoversapp.com and use promo code TRIAL for your first 7 days totally free. Thanks so much, as always, for watching, and until next time, happy investing.